I'm officially down 9 freaking pounds. I had a complete and total lifestyle change after getting some blood work done about a month ago. And well, actually I did the blood work maybe 6 weeks ago. And I feel like now is a really good time to explain to you guys why I had the lifestyle change, how it's working out for me so far, just an overall update, because if you have been following me for a long time, we have had this conversation over and over again about me saying I'm gonna lose 5 pounds and truly it just not working. And sometimes it was from self-sabotage, but other times it really did feel like it was out of my control. And it was getting really exhausting having the same conversation with doctors of them saying, yeah, I mean, like, I don't see anything wrong, just eat 1,200 calories or get over wanting to lose weight. So I actually recently hired Dr. Brittany Tejas, and it's pretty crazy because she is actually one of my subscribers. She has been following me for years, and she reached out to me a couple years ago letting me know that she had her own primary care physician, like virtual practice. And the way it works is you pay $150 a month, but you get your own primary care physician at your fingertips all the time when it comes to prescriptions, doctor's appointments, blood work, I mean, like anything primary care. She handles it, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done. She also takes a very holistic and naturopathic approach, which was what I was really looking for in a doctor, but is very hard to find these days, even in LA. I still feel like even the ones that do primary care don't pay you that much attention or take you that seriously. So after seeing my OBGYN, running hormones, everything, and still just like not losing weight, aside from the fact that I was eating 1,500 calories a day, working out 3 to sometimes 6 times a week, very much like moving my body, working on my sleep, etc. You know, there was just no weight loss happening. If anything, my cravings were intensifying and I was gaining weight. And it was really, really frustrating because first of all, I don't even like to be in a weight loss mindset. It's kind of my worst nightmare because I was a fitness content creator and had my body constantly under a microscope for so long that it really became exhausting. I've been in this mentality of wanting to lose weight for like 3 years, on and off, and it ultimately just wasn't working. And very slowly, I feel like, I don't want to say it was deteriorating my self-esteem, but rather like, I'm like, can I just not do this anymore? Do I just not have the mental fortitude to be able to actually complete something like this? I don't understand. When I saw Dr. Britt, we had a conversation where I told her all of my concerns. You know, I told her I've been trying to lose weight. It's kind of helpful. She's been following me. She knows what my journey is like. She knows what I eat like. She's seen how my body has fluctuated over the years. It was really nice in that sense where she was just like, yeah, cool. Like, yep, I know what you're talking about. I've seen it, and let's figure it out. Let's actually get to the bottom of it. So she did she ordered a full blood work lab for me. The biggest thing was checking my thyroid, my vitamin D levels, my vitamin B levels, my fasting insulin and glucose, kind of just like everything. We checked my liver and got like a full 3-month past preview. We saw what had been going on in my blood for the last 3 months. And the results that came back gave me the answers that I feel like I've been looking for a very long time, which was that 1, I was insulin resistant, and like, what the how did so many doctors just refuse to tell me that? All of my cholesterol levels were out of whack. I didn't have enough of the good cholesterol and I had a lot of the bad cholesterol. Thankfully, my triglycerides had gone down, but again, cholesterol, not great. When we looked at my fasting insulin and glucose on the Quest Labs paperwork, it obviously said that it was within range and normal. Not obviously, but in my case, it said that it was within range and normal, but I was just like a few points away from going into the abnormal or just like not great area. My fasting insulin was at 16, and I believe my fasting glucose was at 99. I was 1 point away from it being considered abnormal. The thing about these Quest tests that I'm learning, at least when you see a more holistic naturopathic doctor, is that just because it's within range does not mean that it's optimal. And like, every single person is different, every single body is different. And so we actually took I'll get to that in a second. So then everything else looked good. My vitamin D was still a little bit low, and I also was diagnosed with NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because my liver enzymes were just I don't even know if it was liver enzyme. I just know that she was like, yeah, this is reversible and it's not that bad, but you do have NAFLD. And I do know that it's from diet and your cholesterol and this, and then seeing where your insulin and your glucose is showing me, like, it's making the picture very sharp, very clear. Going back to the insulin and glucose, there is a website, I think it's HOMA-IR, HOMA-IR. I'll leave it linked in the description box. But if you have your fasting glucose and insulin numbers, ideally very current ones, you can actually plug those two numbers in and you will get a calculation for whether or not you're insulin resistant. Anything over 2 is considered insulin resistant, and the higher it goes, the more severe your case is. Mine was at basically 4. It was at 3.8. I don't want to make it seem like I was excited to find out that I was insulin resistant, but I was, in the sense where I was like, I finally have answers. I now know why my body is having such a difficult time losing weight. I had all the signs. I had, the excess belly fat. I was having a hard time losing weight. I was dealing with severe sugar cravings. I was always really fatigued. I was always really tired. I was depressed. Just all the things that go under in an insulin resistant category. Finally just had something in front of me and my doctor being like, yeah, yes, you are insulin resistant and this is why you're having a hard time losing weight. I just felt like finally for the first time I was like, okay, I can actually try to work on this, and it's no longer just this shot in the dark of hoping that I'm going in the right direction. And the reason I didn't ever really try to heal insulin resistance on my own was because typically if you don't have issues with your blood sugar levels and you start using supplements like berberine or, I don't know, like any type of metabolic supplement, you can actually end up causing damage because the supplements are just like not really intended for you. Dr. Britt and I had a sit down conversation and we were like, cool, so we know that you have insulin resistance. We also know that diabetes runs in your family, weight gain runs in your family, or just like weight issues. I feel like everybody in my family has struggled with weight in some way. Maybe there's a genetic component here too. So what are we going to do? So she gave me 3 options. She's like, we can take the extreme lifestyle change option, we could take the extreme medicated option, or we can kind of meet somewhere in the middle, which I already loved. She was like, let's do what's best for you and most realistic for you because everyone is different. I was actually qualified to do a GLP-1 for tirzepatide, but just basically like a semaglutide situation. It's not the one that is used for diabetics. This is one that is actually like an FDA approved weight loss medication, specifically used for weight loss. Lifestyle change one was to just completely change my dietary habits, cut out processed foods, cut out sugars, cut out all the things. And there's a very specific diet called animal-based diet, which is the one that she was going to recommend to me to reverse my insulin resistance and help me start losing the weight that I have been trying to lose for ages. And then the middle option was to kind of do a mixture of both with the diet change and something like metformin as the medicated side of it, or supplement with something like berberine. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Every fiber of my being was like, yeah, I want to do the weight loss injection because I don't think that anything else is going to work. And I'm so sick of trying and dedicating time into a lifestyle change, a food change. Like, it's hard when you have a sugar addiction. These things are not easy to do. I just was like, maybe that's just what I need to do first. But then as we were talking, she was like, well, so you don't have a lot of weight to lose, which is a good thing. I don't think it'll take you very long, and something to consider when you go on these weight loss medications or injections is that they're really hard to come off of, and oftentimes people end up gaining the weight back because they didn't do the lifestyle change and their appetite never really got in check and they just continue doing what they were doing, and then they end up gaining the weight when they get off of it. Whereas if you do a lifestyle change and that's something that you feel like you can tolerate and handle, this could be something that changes you for the rest of your life. So fuck it, fine, I'll wait. I was naturally a little bit nervous to take the tirzepatide too because I know that there's like a whole assortment of issues that can happen with your pancreas and nausea and feeling exhausted and all of those things. So I said, let's do the middle option. I ended up choosing to supplement berberine while completely changing my diet habits. When I went in for my blood work, I was basically 150 pounds. For the record, I'm 5'1", and it was not muscle. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm a muscle mommy. It's all, no, it was not muscle. I mean, Pilates was building some muscle for me, but it was not That it was not muscle. I'm inflamed, clearly holding water. I don't even think it was all fat. I think it was just my body was highly inflamed. I was eating a lot of processed shit, wasn't cooking at home, and I wanted to believe I could do it that way because I come from an if it fits your macros background where it doesn't matter what you eat. It's calories in versus calories out, which is true. And I know that there's going to be some conversation around calories in versus calories out, but I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm only speaking for myself. This is what worked for me, and this will forever change my perception of calories in versus calories out. If you are insulin resistant, I don't think it's as simple as calories in versus calories out, because that's what I was doing. I was meal prepping my chicken and having eggs and avocado on toast in the morning and whatever, my yogurt bowl for dessert with strawberries and a little bit of granola and protein yogurt like a Siggi's or a Chobani or something like that. And guess what? I did not lose weight. I didn't. And everyone's like, I just think you're not eating enough, or you're eating too much still. You're still eating too many calories. No. Because I was so fixated on losing weight, it almost made me more hungry. Therefore, like, I feel like my cortisol was high. I feel like so many things were out of funk. Dr. Britt proceeded to recommend a diet to me that was created by or popularized by a man named Paul Saladino, which if you are involved in this, not diet culture, but I guess nutrition culture and dietitian culture, there's a lot of conversation about him, and some people really like him, some people really hate him. I don't really have an opinion other than it worked. He promotes something called the animal-based diet. He actually used to promote the carnivore diet, which was something I never even took seriously because it's just so far out of my reality. Like I would never just live a life where I'm only eating protein and eggs and butter. It's just not something I could do. He was like so crazy about the carnivore diet, and then he was like, hey, actually I think it's a good idea to eat fruits as well. That basically introduces you to the animal-based diet, which is essentially eating lots of protein, grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic steaks. If you're gonna eat chicken, avoiding chicken that is with hormones, again, organic, pasture-raised, and ideally not fed corn or wheat, corn or soy, something like that. I don't know, that I'm not as meticulous with. I eat a lot of that. I eat a lot of like Siggi's yogurt. I have been drinking A2 dairy. I'm not doing any raw dairy necessarily, unless it's in the form of cheese. I really love raw white sharp cheddar cheese from one particular brand. I tried to get a different one, not the same thing. Pasture-raised grass-fed butter, and a lot of fruit. A lot of freaking fruit, maple syrup, agave syrup, and honey. That is essentially what makes up the animal-based diet, and it's been absolutely life-changing. The great thing about it is, while it does sound very restrictive because you're not eating any processed foods, you're not eating your candy, you're not eating, any of your typical things that you would reach for, it keeps you so satiated. It sounds restrictive, but it only sounds restrictive in this day and age, because once upon a time, our ancestors, this was all they had available to them, along with grains and nuts and things like that. We're taking it back. Like, this was all they had, and they were completely fine. I basically 100% committed myself to the animal-based diet the day after I talked to Dr. Brittany, or maybe even the day of. I went to the grocery store and I stocked up on my foods. That was kind of just what led it all to where I am today. Notably, I think the biggest things that I cut out that made the difference was my ultra processed foods, things like canola oil or, any of those vegetable or seed oils, which is so funny. We hear about that all the time, but I just started cooking everything in butter. And I would say also cutting out things like pasta and white rice. And I hate saying that because I was the person that was like, no, you can still eat pasta, you can still eat white rice. And I could have, but I just wanted to prove to myself that I can make this lifestyle change. And I think once I saw like, okay, we have NAFLD, we have insulin resistance, we have a history of cancer in my family, we have a history of diabetes. I can't just wave this off and say whatever until it gets really bad, because I was 0.2 points away from being considered pre-diabetic. My hemoglobin was really, really close to being there. And I think that was just all it took for me to realize that this was something that actually needed serious attention because I want to live a long life. I want to have kids. I want to be healthy. I want to have strong. I don't want to feel like I'm afraid of becoming diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or even pre-diabetic when it's so clearly avoidable. It just requires a lot of discipline, which is really hard when you have a sugar addiction. I started doing animal-based and it was really great because fruit is the #1 solution when you're having extreme sugar cravings because it is sugar. It's just a healthy, more fibrous one filled with vitamins and very, very satiating. So I was really able to keep myself satiated with that and a fuck ton of protein. So I'll take you guys through kind of what a day of eating looked like for me and how my body, my mindset, my appetite has changed. The first week, I did not have my supplements yet. I was only doing the animal-based diet, and basically I would wake up and I would have like 2 to 3 scrambled eggs. I would have maybe a piece or 2 of bacon and some strawberries, some fruit on the side. And then later in the day, I found these really yummy frozen grass-fed beef meatballs at Sprouts. I love them because they're frozen. I just literally have to microwave it or stovetop cook it or whatever and it's done. Because in the middle of the day, I don't really like to be cooking. I just want something quick so that I can stay focused on whatever I'm focused on. And so I would have, 6 of those, which was about 30 grams of protein. I would have 2 pieces of my raw sharp cheddar cheese, which was another 10 to 15 grams of protein. Then I would chop up like a big mango. And I love drizzling the meatballs in honey. I love drizzling the meatballs in honey. It's so tasty and it gives it such a nice, perfect sweetness to the saltiness, and I absolutely love it. During dinner, that's when me and Ryan really feast, and we started cooking a mixture of things. I know how to cook a steak now. We'll have either a organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised ribeye steak or a New York strip steak, and that each time is anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of protein, very large portions of protein. And then on the side, we'd have more cheese, more fruit, and dates. Everybody talks about dates. Try dates with butter. It literally tastes like cookies and like a cookie dough. And the thing is, it does. I don't know why. I don't know how. I literally will have like 3 to 4 dates now. My body craves it. Instead of like a chocolate bar, I'm like, I think I want a date. But I think it just comes down to just repetition and repeating this pattern and eating this way that my body doesn't know to crave anything else because it's been so long since I've had any type of Three Musketeers, Reese's. And it makes me sad. Ow, I just bit my tongue. It makes me sad when I think about it because I do feel like I depended on food a lot for my emotional well-being, for moments that I was bored. I don't know, I just had a sugar addiction and I don't think I ever thought it was bad. Sometimes when I think about the fact that I don't even crave those things anymore, it does kind of bum me out. Like I'm sitting here thinking, do I want a Three Musketeers right now? No. Honestly, not really. And so within that first week, I think I went from 149 to 147 pounds. From there, I started taking my metabolic complex supplement, which is, I think like 250 grams of berberine and 200 grams of chromium, something like that, or milligrams, sorry, not 200 grams. Then I started taking a vitamin B complex and taking vitamin D daily. A week later, I started doing that, and that was rough. When I started doing the berberine, I feel like I experienced what a lot of people now I know call die-off. People don't know this. They call berberine nature's Ozempic, but it's actually not at all. It's actually an antimicrobial that helps kill off a lot of the bad bacteria in your gut, and it really helps people who have blood sugar problems. If you're somebody who doesn't have blood sugar problems and you hear nature's Ozempic and you start taking it, it could actually just like fuck up your whole gut and make things far worse, far more difficult, put you in a worse place than you started. So don't just start taking this. Like, don't watch a TikTok video and assume that it's for you. Get your labs checked. Make sure that you're an actual candidate for it. It helps balance your blood sugar levels. It helps your body create more insulin sensitivity, because the whole point of insulin resistance is that, I forgot to explain that to you guys. Insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? Let's go there for a second. What is insulin resistance? Okay, so imagine that your body is like a house, and every room inside of this house needs sugar in order to function properly, sugar or glucose. Insulin is essentially like a key that opens each door to the room to deliver the sugar into its room. right? Okay, so insulin is the key, glucose is the delivery, and our body is the temple that needs the delivery in order to function. But we can't do it without that key. We need the insulin to help open up this door and get this sugar delivered. But what starts to happen is if we have too much sugar coming in, the door actually starts to get jammed because the sugar is like rimming the perimeters. You know, like when you get honey stuck in an annoying crevice and it's just like jammed in there and you have to like toothpick it out because there's too much of it. The door is jammed, it's not opening as well. The insulin can't really do its job anymore because the door is just not functioning because there's too much. There's too many people trying to squeeze into one room at one time. It's chaos. So what happens is insulin is still coming and trying to deliver it. It's still continuing to essentially drop off the sugar at the door and trying to open the door. And when it doesn't, it's like, okay, well, I gotta go. You figure it out, okay? And so the sugar is left waiting. Where am I gonna go? Where am I gonna sit? And that's when we start to become insulin resistant because the sugar doesn't have anywhere to go. It starts to get stored as fat in our body. And now we've just got all this excess glucose swimming around inside of us with no place to go. And so when that happens, our body actually tries to create more insulin to try to get those doors open, and thus creates the issues with weight gain and insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity issues where your body is just not responding to insulin at all anymore because it's like, dude, every time you bring sugar to me, everything just, it doesn't work. The door doesn't open. So that is insulin resistance. And if you have it, it makes it really, really difficult to lose weight because you are dealing with issues with your blood sugar levels and your body not knowing to tap into old stored fat, but rather continuously just trying to get rid of the sugar that is currently always living in your bloodstream. Even if you are eating less food, your body is still going to store the extra fat because it thinks that that's going to be extra energy, and it just obviously causes a slew of issues. Going back to animal-based, I started doing the berberine. I experienced die-off because clearly there was a lot of bad bacteria in my gut that was making me crave all of the sugar that I always wanted. I felt really, really tired. I got headaches in the first 2 weeks. I was just sleeping so much, but it was really controlling my appetite. I was able to eat my meals and really not think about food at all after that. I have now been doing this diet for 6 weeks. Diet. It's a lifestyle. But I also have made it like a very balanced approach. I would say I follow it 85 to 90% of the time. If I'm out with my friends, and like the other day, Liana and I went out and we got curly fries. That was like 3 weeks into me doing it. I had some curly fries with her. I also went out to dinner with 2 of my girlfriends like a few weeks ago, and I got John and Vinny's pasta, like a spicy fusilli vodka pasta. There is a balance at play here. We went to Ryan's family's house. I had some pasta there. It's very, very balanced. And I don't plan to eat animal-based 100% forever, ever. Like I will always have nuts and grains and variety in my diet, but for the most part, this is what is absolutely changing my life and making me healthier while also feeling satiated and not really feeling like I'm on a diet. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything because everything tastes so good all the time. Since I started, we can just call it 150 pounds. I am now at 142 pounds. So I've lost about 8 pounds in the last 6 weeks, which is insane because it has truly been effortless. And I do feel like my weight stagnated at 145 for the first month, and in the last 2 weeks, I've just been dropping 1.5 pounds. Every single week, it's been like clockwork. I have been a lot more aware of the order in which I eat my foods. And you hear everyone say this, oh, when you have a plate of food, eat the protein first and then eat your carb, or eat your protein and then your fats and then your carbs. I'm always like, yeah, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. So many studies that show how our blood sugar will spike if we have bread before we have our main dish at an Italian restaurant, as opposed to having the main dish and then having the bread, how that will affect our blood sugar response. If I am going to have something like an acai bowl, or I'm going to have some chocolate or some cookies or some pasta, I make sure that I have like 3 scrambled eggs first, or some sort of protein shake, or some sort of yogurt bowl, so that I can make sure that I'm keeping my blood sugar in check, because in reality, that's what's causing the insulin resistance. And it's been an absolute game changer. Yesterday was my first day where I was like being kind of crazy, and I had like 6 chocolate chip cookies from Sprouts, like chocolate chip cookies. And Ryan and I went to In-N-Out, and I got a protein style double, which is crazy because I always want the bun, but I did not want it. I was like, no, I just give me the patty. Give me the patty, the sauce, and the cheese. And I had that and an acai bowl. I ate a lot yesterday. I probably ate over 2,000 calories. I woke up and I was lighter today. I was like, what? This would have never happened before. It was just the craziest thing. I don't know what they cook In-N-Out burgers in. I don't know every little ingredient that goes into it. So I did also notice that I was like a little bit gassy and that I was more bloated than usual. I felt the discomfort that I don't really feel from cooking at home all the time. And then the final thing I've noticed is that in the last week and a half, I have barely had an appetite. And it's actually not great, because by the time my stomach is like grumbling and letting me know I'm hungry, there is not a thing that sounds good to me except for like water. I'm like, I just want to drink some water. I just want water. I just always want water now. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, just, I'm not hungry. Or I'm just staying full for so long. So it's getting to the point where I'm having more like 2 meals a day. Granted, they're big ones-ish, but I was having 3. I needed to have 3 meals a day before. So now I typically stop eating around 10 o'clock and I will fast until 1 or 2 unintentionally, unless I have a matcha or I have a coffee, which I just started doing again recently. It's almost a 16-hour fast. Wait, is it a 16-hour fast? I'm really happy. It's really satisfying and rewarding to not only see the progress, but to really feel the progress. I'm just really happy with the way that everything is going. And the final thing is Dr. Britt did recommend that I do start implementing some weight training again. So I started doing F45 workouts because I just realized I have no desire to step foot into a gym and lead my own workouts anymore. While I could create a program for everyone else and have such a great time doing it, I don't want to do that for myself anymore. Those days are so far behind me. I think the goal is going to be to do 2 times a week weight training, 1 to 2 times a week Pilates. The fact that I'm even moving my body consistently and wanting to move my body consistently is really, really great. So there are more things that I would love to share with you guys, but I cannot right now. I have to wait until next year to talk to you guys about some more kind of things that I did. I can't say I signed an NDA. I have to wait. That will have its own discussion later that I'm sure has played its part in all of this as well. That is my update. I'm insulin resistant. I have NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. My sugar cravings are gone. I'm following animal-based. I am taking vitamin D, vitamin B, metabolic stuff like berberine and chromium, and I take magnesium most nights and my antidepressants nightly, drink a lot of water, move my body in a way that feels reasonable for me, and the results are finally starting to come. Like I'm just, the fact that I can sit here and be like, yeah, I've lost 8 pounds. I won't really believe it until I get under 140 pounds, because I feel like I always got to this point. I never got up to nearly 150 pounds, but I always get to this point where I'm like at between 139 to 142 and I can just, it just stays there. But then I also remind myself that my body still looks so different than it did at 139 last time I was there. But if I can get under 139, which I know I shouldn't have a weight goal. I'm sorry if that triggers anyone. But you know, like you have that number that you're like, I could just never get past this. And if I can get past that, wow, okay, this is working. But I know it's working and I'm really happy and everything is going great. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. It's interesting because the more I talk about this, the more a lot of people come and they're like, if you want to get cancer and die, do animal-based. If you want to really feel healthy, do Mediterranean. The thing is, I'm just doing what's working for me right now. That's not to say it won't change in 6 months. That's not to say it won't change in 3 months. But right now, this is working. This 85% approach, 85-90% approach is working. And slowly but surely, I'm able to have more days like yesterday, where I had my double-double and I had a bunch of chocolate chip cookies and I felt satiated. Actually, by the end of eating the 5 cookies, normally I'd be like, where's the Oreos? But I was like, oh, I actually feel kind of ill. Like, I think I had too much sugar. Feel free to ask any questions. I just have been wanting to sit down and have this discussion with you guys for a while. And I would just love to hear what you guys think, what your guys' experience has been with insulin resistance, or what you've researched, what you know. I love to keep the comments open for various discussions. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I can't wait to update you guys soon again about where I'm at, you know, after another month or 2 doing this. Thank you guys for all your support and I'll see you next time. Bye.